Why are so many people afraid of sales, even when they say the number one thing they need is sales?
So we don't want to do that because we're afraid of offending, we're afraid of pushing, and we're afraid of taking a maybe off the table to turn it into a no.
Mm,
So we like to have a lot of maybes because it makes us feel good about what we're doing, even though it doesn't put any money in the bank and it doesn't solve any problems. It just makes us feel like they're not a no. I got a bunch of maybes out there, so I might have some sales. My deepest desire is that everybody would just learn to say those things when you think them. Let the truth come out of your mouth and let people resonate with that, because usually the thing that you don't want to say is the thing you must say. And that's probably the game changing point of the conversation that will lead them to a place of truth and reality and start bringing them closer to you.
Welcome to this episode. Today, we're going to talk about how to transform leads into loyal clients. And I've invited Jim Padilla along because he is the goat of the sales game. He's been around for quite a long time. So, Jim, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, so good to be able to be on. I know we've had a few conversations about trying to coordinate this for some time.
We have, but here we are and we're doing it. Let's start off. I just want to go like straight into this one. And I'm going to ask a question. Why are so many people afraid of sales, even when they say the number one thing they need is sales?
You know, there's so many different dilemmas out there. I think part of the problem is that people believe they're more informed than they think they are. And I think people are seeking things outside of themselves that already exist inside, but they're looking for a way to package it or label it. And it's interesting because you and everybody you know has been selling every day of your life for your whole life. That's how anything gets done. I mean, that old saying of nothing happens in the world until a sale is made, that's as accurate a statement as ever existed in the world. And that is, if you want your husband to take out the trash, you have to convert him into the concept of why that should matter more than him sitting on the couch watching the football game, if that's what he's doing. And, in our world, happy wife, happy life will trump whatever's going on the football game. So that's the conversion, right? What do you want your kids to eat their vegetables before they do their homework? Or if you want to go to Mexican restaurant instead of Chinese, somebody's enrolling somebody in something or something isn't happening. And we've done it our whole lives. But then when we get into a sales environment, somehow we think it's supposed to be this thing that fits into this box and we have to do it a certain way. And then all of a sudden we start doing it out of a natural alignment. And then we're doing anything but being ourselves. And then we wonder why it doesn't work.
Love that. So I feel like that sales get a bad rap. It's talked about so much. Yet when I ask someone, but like when you make a sale, like, do you get this like, massive like excitement? Does it make your mojo return? They're always like, yeah, I feel really good when I get a new client. So there's this dilemma where the sale isn't crossing over to the feeling that people are feeling. And I think a lot of that is because maybe they're getting afraid before they get on a call. It's about them. I'm afraid to ask. I'm afraid that I'm convincing someone to buy. I. And I feel that that's where the problem starts. But what do you see?
Yeah, it's typically, like I said, everything is external. Number one, we're trying to perfect some kind of process instead of just optimize who I'm being. Number one rule in our world at Gain the Edge is it's not what you're being, it's not what you're saying, is who you're being while you're saying it that matters the most. Because you could say all the right things, but if you're not being the right person, it won't come across the right way. My first podcast years ago was called Sales Unscripted. Not that I don't believe scripts are useful, it's just they're not necessary because no script's going to tell you who you need to be. You know who you need to be. And you have to show up as that person. Most importantly, the best version of that person. If you show up as your best self, then you're going to elevate the other person to being at their best self. And from up there, they can make great decisions instead of being down in the soup where all the mess is, because nobody makes good decisions down there. And
Mm,
so if you just show up and do the things you would do naturally, like care about a person, ask great questions, share them what you see. If I see you and if we got on this podcast right now and you had a booger hanging out of your nose,
ah,
I would probably say something before we pushed record. I would
uh-huh,
say, Sam, you want to fix this? Because I wouldn't want you to look bad. I wouldn't want you to
uh-huh,
feel
uh-huh.
silly, right? So in a sales conversation, it's the same exact thing. If I know you're about to go off of this call and go to a mess and do something wrong that's going to cost you, it's my job to tell you the truth of what's going to happen if you don't make this decision, right? But what if the time we don't want to do that because we're afraid of offending, we're afraid of pushing, and we're afraid of taking a maybe off the table to turn it into a no. So we like to have a lot of
Mm,
maybes because it makes us feel good about what we're doing, even though it doesn't put any money in the bank and it doesn't solve any problems. It just makes us feel like they're not a no. I got a bunch of maybes out there, so I might have some sales.
mm. Oh, wow. Really hitting. How do you see enrolling differently to sales? Because I feel like there's like this energetic shift of let's enroll a client rather than sell a client. What's your take on this?
Yeah, well, I used to be on this mission to bring sales back to prominence. Like we're all selling, so why are we so afraid of it? I cannot tell you how many times, we run sales teams, we grow sales teams, we provide fractional sales teams and support, and I am fascinated by how many people magically come up with all these different words: enrolling, inviting, elevating, welcoming, warming. There's so many things people will say to avoid saying selling. It's like, just, you're selling. We're all selling. It's okay. It's a good thing. And I blame the sales experts. I blame the industry that I'm in, which is, I don't try to position myself as a sales coach because we are far beyond that and anything but. But how many times do you see, we help you sell without feeling sleazy? We help you
Mm-hmm.
sell without feeling pushy. So,
Mm-hmm.
we're the ones that talk about it more than anybody else. So everybody on the planet is worried about being sleazy, salesy, pushy, and slimy because every sales expert on the planet talks about not being sleazy, pushy and slimy.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't talk about it. I just say, we help you sell. We help you make money. We help you deliver profit and freedom and wealth into your business. We help you design your business to make sales for you so that it's not up to you all the time to make business. Because you didn't get into business to make sales. You got into business to solve problems and change lives. So let's get
Yeah.
you in the role of solving problems and changing lives. Let's let your business do the selling, right?
Mm.
But I don't apologize for that. I want people to be proud of selling and know that selling is the vehicle that's going to deliver what they want and their ability to help all the people that they want to help.
Mm. You mentioned then being proud. Do you feel like the difference between being proud of making the sale and feeling icky is just like this, almost like that maybe the offer isn't quite right? Like, what's your thoughts about this?
Oh gosh, that's just one of the many. Yes,
Mm.
we have a process. We've delivered over $500 million worth of sales results for our clients, and in that process, we have come across every problem and every broken process and every missing strategy and every screwed up offer that you could
I'll
possibly
bet.
do. And so we've had to build systems and strategies and structures. And over time, it has helped us evolve what we now call the P7 framework, which is our 7 principles of growth that deliver what are necessary to have a business that delivers profit and freedom. And without all of those systems, you are going to be fully reliant on your ability to have magical charisma and jump through hoops and be magical and awesome every single day, or your sales team is going to have to. And there's no reason, because if your business is designed right, your offer is clear and compelling, you have a great process, you have a right plan, you have the right pitch, you have all of the right people in place, sales will happen naturally. So I'm good at sales. I don't pride myself on that. That's not a big thing for me. What I would prefer as a sales expert, that rather than you mastering the art of trying to become a sales rock star, which the reality is you're probably never going to become one, or you do what I do and I master the art of designing my world in such a way that sales happen. Right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have the right plan, you have the right pitch, you have the right positioning, you have the right processes, you have the right people in place, all of the things that go into the P7 framework, sales happen. And you don't have to be a rock star. You just have to be a good person who's on value and on brand for what you do. And you will have consistent, predictable overachieving instead of having to be a rock star and unicorn closer and hope that your magic shows up every day. I don't want to count on magic. I want to count on everything else being designed right so that people can deliver. It takes all the pressure off.
I love it. What are some of the pieces that you see as a good offer?
A good offer is, simply put, is something that is clear, compelling, irresistible, actionable, right? It's something that is easy for them to understand. It is easy for them to put into play. Like, it's actionable. It's like they know exactly what they're getting. They know why they're getting it because they're understanding that they're the right person for it. They have the exact problem that it solves, and they know that it's something, but it's clear based on how you position it, that they know what to do with it. So it's clear and understanding why, when I implement this, it will actually deliver an outcome. That's an irresistible offer. It doesn't have to be crazy and dripping and gooey and ooey and all the stuff that people try. You don't have to create magic. You just have to deliver clarity. The more clear it is, the more compelling it will be.
Oh my goodness. I've done 3 episodes this morning and clarity has come up every single time. It's the word.
That's the magic sauce. People always talk about in sales like, oh, you need to get to pain or you need to get to the problem. Yes, you do. But the mission should always be clarity, because if you have clarity, it will reveal pain. It will reveal the problem. It will reveal the necessity to do something about the problem. But if you're just striving for pain, then people will feel like you're putting pain upon them, which is part of the reason people don't want to sell, because they feel this inappropriate guilt for, it's not my job, it's not my responsibility that you feel pain or hurt about the problem that you have not chosen to solve. It's my job just to reflect back to you the reality of the situation that you're in. And as the expert of the problem, I know that if you don't solve it, it's going to have an outcome that won't be favorable to you. Now it's up to you what you do with that, right?
Let's talk a little bit about that psychology. So when someone's at that moment that someone says to you either yes or no, what's really going on in their head during that decision? Like, how do we tap into that without being manipulative or feeling salesy?
Yeah, it's the more present you can be, which is also why I try to avoid a bunch of scripts and things that keep you focused on what you're supposed to say next, instead of just being in the moment and being able to tap in and go where it's necessary. When you're presently connected to another person, you'll be able to feel the things. You'll be able to feel when they're not being genuine. You'll be able to feel when they're trying to make up an answer or an excuse because they don't want to give you the real answer because it might make them look stupid. If you're talking about money or relationships or things, nobody wants to look stupid in those environments. So they don't typically tell you what's really going on because they don't want you to know, because they're ashamed of it in some way, or there's something wrong. And so the more you can tap into that, then you have the ability to, even if you don't know what is wrong, you just know that something's wrong. And you have to have the confidence, the certainty to understand that in that moment, it's your job to say, look, I understand this, I understand there's a problem here and I understand the consequence of not solving it. But what's not going to work in this moment is that if I can't help you actually diagnose what's missing, I can't help you solve it. So I need you to be able to trust this moment that I'm going to receive what you're going to give me, and only for the purpose of helping you solve it. There's no judgment here. You're safe. You can tell me whatever you need to. I've heard far worse than whatever you're going to share with me. Right? You have to be able to tap in and tell people it's okay. And you have to give them permission to just drop into the moment. And because you're going to have to read. And how many times did you ever have a phone call? And I don't care how you might be listening and you're not even that good at sales, or maybe you've only had a handful of conversations. But everybody's had these moments where you get off the call and you go to your friend or your coach or your team leader and you say, man, I should have said this. I wish I would have said that. Because inside you already know that you were supposed to say it. You just have a problem inside of you reconciling why you won't say it because you don't want to look bad, you don't want to feel mean, you don't want to feel or be a certain way. It's not about what they're showing up with, it's about what you're bringing to the conversation. And
Mm,
what my deepest desire is that everybody would just learn to say those things when you think them.
mm.
Let the truth come out of your mouth and let people resonate with that, because usually the thing that you don't want to say is the thing you must say. And that's probably the game changing point of the conversation that will lead them to a place of truth and reality and start bringing them closer to you.
Mm. Love it. You mentioned scripts then and not using scripts. And I understand that because you're right. There's nothing worse than even being the recipient, like being on the call and you know that someone hasn't heard because they're just getting ready to ask the next question that's on the piece of
Right.
paper. But when we're talking about optimizing sales, there's got to be some sort of framework so we know what's working and what's not. What's the balance?
Yeah, and you said the right word. I'm a big fan of frameworks, bullet points. Whether I'm doing a talk, I do about 200 talks and interviews a year. When I'm speaking on stage or in a room, I will usually write out what I want to say, word for word, and then I will drop it down to bullet points and then throw the word for word away, because
Mm-hmm.
I want to be under the influence of my words in the moment. But those bullet points are there to keep me on track, keep me on time, make sure that I don't forget anything. So
Mm-hmm.
have the key questions that for the things that you know you need to find out. What is it you need to discover? And have the right questions already built in so that they're there for you. But you don't want to be so focused on what's the next thing that you literally miss the moment. And this has happened last week with one of the teams that we're running. The woman was telling the salesperson on the phone that they're in a tough spot because they lost a family member and the family's trying to figure out what to do next. And there was this simple, brief, mild acknowledgement, like, oh, yeah, that sounds rough. And then immediately went to the next question.
Oh,
And in the she didn't even notice it until we told her after we audited the call.
yeah.
And she was like, oh my God, I never even heard that. Right? She
Mm,
didn't hear it because she was too busy focusing on what's the next question, because she was trying to get through to the script instead of
yeah.
just going, oh my gosh, are you okay? Is
Mm,
everybody okay? Is this a
mm.
good time to be talking about this right now? Could we talk
Right.
next week? Is your business, do we still need to solve this? Is this enough of a problem that you still need to address this even though that's going on? I just want to be mindful. Right? That would
Mm-hmm.
change the entire nature and flavor of that conversation. Because you could still move on. Then they probably would have said, you know, it's okay. We're here. Let's talk. Or they would say, you know
Yeah.
what? Maybe we should talk next week. But at least you've acknowledged it. But when you didn't, even if they don't, the thing that we have to recognize is that disconnects are almost never conscious. Like
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously, they might be going, what's wrong with this fool? Even though they didn't think that
Mm,
intentionally. So
mm-hmm.
there,
Mm-hmm.
you think they're right with you, and you're not. You're way up here in the conversation, and they left you way back there,
Mm,
right?
mm.
Because subconsciously they disconnected, but you won't even be able to put your finger on it. And then here's what's going to happen at the end of the call, especially if you do that a few times. At the end of the call, they're going to say, oh, you know what? If you would have acknowledged me back then when I talked about my mother, or if you would have paid attention when I said this, but you didn't, so I'm going to tell you I'm not interested. I wish people
Yeah.
would communicate that way, but they don't. Instead, they go,
Mm.
oh, I can't afford it. Or,
Mm-hmm.
I need to think about it. How about you come send me some info and call me next week? That,
Yeah.
and you don't know that what they're really saying is you didn't acknowledge me the way I needed you to acknowledge me, and I don't feel trust in you, and I don't want to buy from you.
Mm.
If only people could say something like that, but they don't know how. They're not equipped.
Yeah. Yeah. And they may, but they also may not even realize it themselves. They're like,
Correct.
oh,
Oh,
I just don't
definitely.
feel right. So because it doesn't feel like it's at the top of my list, it's like I can't afford it. But we all know that you can afford things, well, within reason, of course, that you can afford
Right.
things that speak to your values. You know, how many
Yes.
how many people go shopping when you feel terrible when you buy something and it makes you feel better. Like it's a thing, whether or not you can afford it. So let's talk a little bit about those objections, because you sort of tapped in that they're not always what people are saying. So how do we deal with those?
Yeah, I think that everybody needs to have a go-to strategy, something that's in alignment with your values and your philosophy. One of the things that I teach and that I do is I call it getting into the sandbox that they create. So whatever you respond when we make an offer, then if they say, "Oh, it's not in my budget," okay, you just created a sandbox around a budget. Now let's talk budget. So, okay, awesome. I appreciate that you have a budget. We've got one too. I'm very glad that you have one. Tell me about how you manage your budget. What is your strategy for budget management? How do you make those decisions? Do you evaluate your budget weekly, daily, monthly? How do you look at it? Because if most of the time they don't actually have a plan around that, they're just trying to find a way to elegantly say no. And so we're going to talk about that. So what I find is that the budget is not a handcuff for us, it's a feedback tool. So we know that when we're over budget here, that means we have to be under budget over here to make up for it. And if that's the case, then that means sometimes we will intentionally go over budget in one category because we know it's only going to be for a few months while we're working towards a project, and then we'll be under budget in a couple of other places to make up for it. Is that how yours works? Right? And then typically they go, well, yeah, or I don't have a strategy, or maybe that makes, that we're diving into something else. Just like if they say something like, oh, I need to pray about it. Cool. I'm all down. I got my Bible right here. I'm a praying man. I love God. I roll with Jesus. This is who I am. So are you the kind of person who prays about the problems in your business? Can I assume if prayer is a regular thing for you that you may maybe you've prayed about this problem before, right? And if you have, is it possible that God is bringing you solutions? Is it possible that you prayed and then we had a conversation? So this could have already been factored in. Now, if you have not been praying about it and you're just using this as an excuse, then I'm good with that too. But I would prefer you just say you don't want to do this. But if not, I'm happy to pray for. I will write you in my prayer journal right now because I want this problem solved for you, whether we solve it or not. Right. And so no matter what they say, you just need to be present and have the wherewithal to just engage people honestly and be the truth teller, because most people, you are probably going to be the only real conversation of truth and consequence that they have, because most other people are too busy trying to be liked. And I'm not trying to be liked. I'm trying to be of service. I'm trying to be valuable to you.
Oh my goodness. I love that. What do you think makes someone look at you and say, yep, you're the person I want to work with? Like, how do you build that level of trust without having to shout about your wins?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the thing that I have seen the most be effective is just being absolutely honest and true. Because if you're trying to be something that you're not, and people say no, then you lost not even being your best self, right? I would rather lose the deal because I was totally me and
Yeah.
you just don't like or trust me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
good with that. I'm really not good when I'm trying to be this person I'm trying to stand up to being, and you don't, and it's not the real me, but I thought it was the me that was going to impress you. And then you said
Mm-hmm.
no to that. And I didn't even have the chance to really win you over by just being the best version of me. So
Mm-hmm.
either way, you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. So why don't you just win the ones that you can? Because those are if the people who are attracted to the real you are going to be the people who are going to get the best benefit from you, get the best result, and you're going to enjoy them the most anyway. So just really lean into that, because that's what when people are going to buy. People are going
Yeah.
to be, the trust is real. And the more truthful you are, the faster they will trust you. And it
Yeah.
doesn't take days, weeks, and months. They can trust you in minutes.
Totally. I just want to add a little bit to there as well. That can also play into, if you're not showing up as you and you do make the sale, when that person is enrolled and becomes on as a client, you can feel like a circus monkey with that person, because you always need to show up as that person. And there's this real energetic disconnect through the whole experience for that client from that point. And it's not nice for
Totally.
them and it's not nice for you.
100%. I factor that in because there's times when I may be enrolling a client that, a lot of our premium clients are, they're doing 7, 8, 9 figures. They're scaling towards an exit, doing bigger things. They've got a big team. I've got a big team. Usually we're in alignment around the problem and the solution, even if we don't necessarily click, but my company clicks with the solution they do, or I have somebody on my team who can step in and run that account. And I'm aware of that in the time. I'm like, this just feels a little bit off, but I want you to know that, our sales captain or our team lead or our project managers, whatever, they're really in sync with this and they totally buy into this message. And I can either get them on the line or let them know that that's the person who's going to be serving their account. Right. And so keep all that stuff in mind. Your company is not just you. Everything about the company is an extension of you. And people, they have different phases and different angles that represent the nuances that you bring. I'm the visionary. I'm the big dreamer. I'm the one. I'm all strategy. I'm all about big time. On the disc, I'm on super high I and like nothing else.
Uh-huh.
That's all I do. My dream is to never log into anything. I just show up and talk to people. This is all I want to do. I literally don't even want a password to anything anywhere. And my team does everything they can to be able to fulfill on that. But that way I can say, my team does this, my team does that. Here's who you have. Here's what you will do. And so, I just live into my strength. But I'm surrounded by people, hallelujah, who are incredible at detail, incredible at follow through, incredible at all of the other things so that I don't have to be, right? But I share
Mm-hmm.
that when I'm talking to people so they don't expect it from me, but they expect it
Mm-hmm.
from what I offer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What I love about this is something that I talk about a lot is being in your zone of genius. And I think that through the school system, we're taught, oh, you're no good at math, then you should spend 5 times more time on math. And you're really amazing at, English lit, then you should not do any of that and put all of your time over here in math. And I think that I believe it's backwards.
Yes.
Here's where I'd love to hear your take on it. You're saying you work with 7, 8, 9 figure business owners, but there's people right now that are in the low 6 figures. And as you and I both know, to get to that low 6 figures, you got to hustle your butt off to get there. There's this point, though, where you still don't have huge amounts of funds to put into a great sales team, but you're at that the breaking point of the hustle where you need to go into scale and you might not enjoy sales. And as a coach, I believe you should be in the coaching, the content delivery, the methodology creation, all of that kind of stuff that is your zone of genius. How can people move those sales off their plate at that crucial point?
Yeah, the biggest thing to recognize, because we have cohorts of people that we serve that are in a 6 figure range that are trying to scale to 7, and we do the same things with them that we do with our bigger clients. The difference is our bigger clients have more money and bigger teams, so they can pay us to jump in and do it, whereas our smaller clients in that 6 figure range, they're with us for a longer journey because we're helping them do it step by step, but they just don't have a big team, so they have to do a lot of the work themselves. And so the first part is you must be able to do it simply. You don't have to do it great. You have to be able to do it so that you can document the process and then it can be replicated. It doesn't have to be perfected. It just has to be clear. As long as you know what every step is that you take. So right now, every one of you listening, write down, pause this and write down everything that happens from the moment you meet somebody until the moment they're done buying from you. Not buying from, they didn't buy from you, they're done buying from you, which means they could buy 20 times. So when somebody is
Mm-hmm.
finally ready to leave your world, write down every step that happens. That's your sales process. It might not be a great one. It might be a little wonky, crunchy, missing some stuff, but that's your sales process. That's what you start building with. Once you have that, then we can start looking at where are the gaps, where are the opportunities in that, and then you can start figuring out how to efficiently and effectively put that together so that it can be handed off to somebody. If you don't have that, you have nothing to hand off to anybody. So you have to have it because somebody could come along and improve it. And the average
Mm-hmm.
salesperson is not going to make it much better because they don't come packing with systems, but they can at least follow the steps that you've given them and then do it the same way that you did, or even better.
Mm. Definitely, if you're listening to this, go back and listen to that over and over, because this document process is so important. Because even though I said, I'm a big believer in delegation, I'm also a big believer that you need to have some sort of idea what you're delegating. I was chatting to someone the other day and she's delegated her ads. And when I dived into it and saw what was happening, I was like, oh my goodness, she doesn't even know what's going on in her world and will never be able to fix the problem because she doesn't understand it before she delegated it. So that is absolute gold.
Yeah, and also there are certain things you have to make sure that you look at everything that you document and break them down, because there are certain things that you would say that most people would think is one step that might be 15. Like we always talk about booking systems, like inside of our P7 framework, one of the P's is process. Well, we have a peak performance process, but it's tricky because inside the peak performance process, there's like 15 systems. It's a process, it's a system of systems. One of those systems is a booking system. And when you have booking systems, most people would say, yeah, I book a call, but that's not one step. In your mind, it's one step, but it's actually, you have to message it. You have to position it. How are you going to invite them to it? How will they know if they want it? What do you want them to do in order to book? Do you want them to book answer questions? Do you want them to answer questions after they book the time? Do you want them to answer questions before they book the time? Do you want those questions to be reserved back to them? Do you want those to show up for you so you or your team can do research? Now, once they have it, how are you going to make sure that appointment gets on their calendar? And how will they know how to access the call when the time is ready? Right? And then when they do, is there anything you want inside of that for them to prepare? Should they watch a video or read something or to answer some questions or take an assessment before they show up? What do you want to do to elevate that? Do you want them to just show up and have a transaction? Do you want this to be a white glove experience? Then once they do show up, what happens if they are late or because they couldn't find the link? Do you have a process to engage them if they don't show up on time? And then what are you going to send to them the moment the call is done, right? There's 20 steps. It's not just book a call, right? So everything in your process, you need to break down to the smallest nuance, because again, that's how you replicate a process. Because if you told somebody, hey, go book a call, and they say, well, how do I do that? What are you going to tell them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Oh my
So
goodness.
think
I
through all of
love
that.
this. I love this so much. This is it is gold. Jim, for people that have been listening to this that are just as excited as I am by having this conversation with you, how can they stay connected?
I've been doing this lately, and so far so good. I want to put my cell phone out there. I want you to have a question when you're listening to this. Something has to come up for you that says, well, what about this? And will this work for me? And what about my scenario? I'm going to drop my cell phone. We have some resources that we're going to share with you inside in the show notes. I have a call audit process that I want to get to you. And then we have a business builder community. We do monthly workshops, and we're going to give you access to that in there so you can come and join us at one of our workshops. But I'm going to drop my cell phone. And inside of that, we answer a question. My team will also have access to this. So when you drop questions in there, we will, as a team, collectively answer those questions. And so far, nobody's abused this. So I'm going to put it out there for you. So my number is 916-587-1946. That is my cell phone. It comes to me. Other people manage it, but it does come to me. My eyeballs will see it. And if you have a question, I'll happily answer it, because I want to know what problems everybody's having, because I obsess and geek out about this stuff. And the more problems that we can solve, the more value we can bring to the marketplace. And people don't always have to hire us to get a problem solved. You are like me. We're world class at solving problems. I can solve stuff in 5 minutes that might take most people 5 hours. So
Yeah.
send me a problem. Let us
Yeah.
chew on it.
Love it, love it, love it. And as Jim said, all of the number and all of those resources will be down below in the show notes. So whatever you're doing right now, whether you're on the treadmill, whether you're driving the kids to school, doesn't matter. When you stop, just scroll down and click those links. Jim, to round out this episode, what is one little thought or action item that you want to leave people with to get them to just the next step?
Learn to be a truth teller. And I know everybody's going, but I do tell the truth. I'm not lying and manipulating. Well, most people, we think we are telling the truth. but we're usually not telling all of the truth. And telling all of the truth is the good and the bad. I have this sign on my desk, and it's there for a very important reason. And it says, "My badassery has no limits." And that's because I have to remind myself every day how awesome I really am, because I so easily believe all the things that are broken about me. And when I know how great I am, I can equally stand up and fight for how great you are, because I can see the greatness in you when I'm at my best. When I'm broken, I'm going to see the flaws in you because I'm jealous, right?
Mm.
But when I'm standing at my best, I do everything in my power to elevate you to your best. Plus, I can stand and say, guess what? Nobody can solve this for you the way that I can. And I can mean it and I can believe it. So that's part of telling the truth, is telling the truth to yourself so that you will then tell your truth to everybody else. And if you're not great at selling, then just tell them the truth of that too. Get on a call and say, look, I'm world class at solving this problem. Nobody is better than me at this. I'm just not world class at selling it. So have some patience with me. Write that down, steal it, quote it, and use it. And you'll be amazed at what kind of responses you'll get from people, because they will like, oh, hey, don't worry about it. You're doing great. All of a sudden, they're on your side. They want you
Mm.
to win here. And you've broken down the walls and the threats. You've lowered their guard, and now you're having a real conversation. Just tell the truth to people.
Oh my goodness. I love that so much. Jim, thank you for coming, sharing your gold with us today. There was so much value in this episode. I will also be going back and listening to it again. The way you broke things down is just fabulous. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Yes, go make some sales and make a huge impact in people's lives.